Hey Aviral, aren't you sick of seeing all those Healthify Me ads? There's so many of them. Keep getting bombarded. It's crazy.
I I think that's why we wrote the piece.
Just right there. That's the reason. It's actually a fascinating origin story. Tushar was a former investment banker who moved back to India to work on the Aadhaar project. And then he and his friend actually, you know, both were health nuts and they did an experiment to try and live on 100 rupees per day and just documented their journey. Can you tell us how that evolved into a business? I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great start to figuring out user demand, right? So how they went about it is they, like you said, subsisted on 100 rupees. They created food and nutrition, and documented it. They saw people asking them for the Excel that they had created of these food types. And because they were looking for an idea, they wanted to do something that had social impact along with actually being an application. They zeroed in on health and education. And that's how, they tried this and then they created this Excel. And that Excel became a blog called HealthifyMe. And seeing demand from people, because India is actually a very sick country when it comes to diabetes and hypertension. When nutrition is really important, they're classified as chronic lifestyle diseases. So nutritional tracking is a very big problem, which would have seen their demand. So they started with a blog, made it a website, and then created an app. I think by 2015 they had a lakh of downloads, which is pretty meaningful, especially at that time, when the internet was just picking up and for a use case like this. So they made a calorie tracking Excel, which became an app. It's still not a business yet, so we can go into that, but it's got good usage and user base.
And it's crazy from a blog to a website to an app to a business. It was a slow start. It took them almost 3 years to go through that evolution. Uh, but from then they really picked up. Can you tell us, what happened for the following years?
Right. So I think first we need to understand that fitness is not a must have for most people, which is why um, making money from fitness is really hard, because people don't want to pay for it because they don't see the need. Like most people are like, yeah, it's okay, it's good. While a lot of people were using the app to track their nutritional value and track their calories over 2015, 2016, and they started seeing growth, they in fact tied up with the hospital network, gave people 1,000 rupees when they took a health pledge, which really scaled the user base to 1 million. They still weren't making money. So in 2017, when they had to actually think of it as a business, which is 5 years after they started with the Excel, they started a subscription plan which would um, track and tell you what you're supposed to eat. So in 2017, they started that. They added a layer where they would, which was kind of a natural extension, adding coaches to the platform, which made people like spend more time as well as some money on their diet and fitness. And they hit like 4 crores of revenue in 2017. So that was like the first time they actually started making money as a business.
And it's amazing, I mean, before Chat GTP, they actually took their nutritional model and added an AI layer on top of it, which I believe actually did better
Right.
than humans in terms of engagement. The AI was supplemented with
Correct.
humans in the background. Can you tell us a bit about that, and also tell us a bit about the size of the market now that they had evolved into nutritional advice and found a way to monetize?
Right. So in late 2017, early 2018, they started this chatbot called Ria, which took all the data that they have. They had 150 million tracked meals. They put that into the model, and then Ria would converse, being like an AI coach, right? Before ChatGPT and most AI models. In fact, people who've been in the ecosystem would have seen the first AI wave at around that time. Chatbots have been there for a very long time. I think they've started to hit an inflection point now. Before that, they would be pretty useless in conversation, and you could tell you were speaking to a bot. So when they started the bot, Ria, they actually started to see a lot more engagement. They were able to provide assistance to the coaches that they had on the platform, and slowly that started picking up, right? And because India is still a young market, the wellness category is around $4 billion, although globally the market is, anywhere between 500 billion to a trillion. It's a very very big market. So they're playing in a fairly large category, and you know when once they enter 2019, they've scaled revenue a little more. They've gone to 24 crores. And now we are about to enter 2020. So when they enter 2020, they've reached like 45-50 crores of revenue. But their biggest luck or tailwind is COVID. um, Everything moves online, and the amount of time people are spending on their health suddenly explodes. And they see their user base skyrocket. They reach like 15 million, 16 million of users. Their revenue also goes up to 100 crores, and they've finally started to see scale in 2020.
And I believe it's this kind of customized nutritional advice that really differentiated from competitors like Practo and CureFit, kind of
Right,
personalizing plans for
right.
individuals. COVID was, of course, a boost that helped them get to the scale that they wanted to get to. But how did they continue to fight competition, and where are they today?
So it's a really tough category, honestly. There's MyFitnessPal in the US, which raised a lot of money, then got acquired by Under Armour, and finally, now it's being run by a private equity firm. So for HealthifyMe, which is a more global play in some sense, because calorie tracking is not location specific. The example of CureFit that you gave is very localized because you have to have gyms in that same location and then it works. HealthifyMe had no borders from a competition standpoint, so anything was fair game. I think by being focused on their calorie tracking as a hook, and then adding layers like a coach, an AI layer, diet plans. In late 2021, they started adding hardware as well because that would expand revenue as well as margin. Like I said initially, fitness is not a must have, but people want to monitor what's happening with them, right? They'll want a weighing scale, they'll want to know what their glucose levels are. So they created the smart meter, which is a weighing scale as well as a glucose monitor, which expanded revenue for them. So in many ways they were competing across the board. So they had training like CureFit. They had these glucose meters and smart meters and multiple players in the market. Then you have calorie tracking, which is like MyFitnessPal. Um, but I think what they did differently from the others was they created a health ecosystem, and that is putting all these things together in one. And I think that's how they've managed to grow um, meaningfully over the last, almost 10 years.
It's just amazing. I mean, and even though they were competing on an international market, they did have Indian specific content. I believe they were one of the best apps in terms of uh, making it easy to pick out Indian foods, and so
Right,
this layering in these services that they built and added on along the years definitely got it to where it is today. What's next for Tushar and HealthifyMe? Where do you see this going in the next few years?
right. So the space is very hard. Honestly speaking, it's an aspirational business to actually improve health outcomes for people, but it's also a very tough business because making money is hard. So if you look at the health of HealthifyMe, they've lost a significant amount of money last year, obviously because they raised and they were burning. So they did around 180 crores of revenue, and they've lost around 150, 160 crores, right? And if you compute their average revenue per user, taking the best case scenario, which is 100 million ARR for 25 million users, um, taking the whole base and not splitting into who's paid and who's not, they're running around $4 per user, and they increased by 5 million users while spending close to 100 crores, 133 crores. So if you look at their CAC, it's around $3. If you look at their ARPU, it's around $4, and they give 40% to coaches of their revenue. So you have 2.5 gross margin with a $3 CAC, right? So which means you're spending at least 15 months for payback. Um, so they have to retain customers for it to make sense meaningfully. Now, they are obviously very well loved because that's evident in their growing user base. They've reached 30 million users, their revenue is still growing. But as a business, for them to meaningfully succeed, they'll have to start retaining customers and making them pay a lot more so that the economics make sense eventually. Now, we are optimists, so you know they are doing obviously something fabulous. But for this to become a business that IPOs, which the team wants to do in the next 2 or 3 years, they'll have to fix these. And the question really is it a market issue or is it an execution issue? I would hope it's something that can be solved with better execution. But many companies have died trying to crack this market, so could also be a market issue. I think I'm, cautiously optimistic about how HealthifyMe could go ahead. They could leverage this health ecosystem that they've created, make more revenue with all their devices plus their plans, and eventually the money will start coming in and make sense from an economic standpoint. So I think they are targeting a massive market, that there's no doubt about it. The question really is if they can fix economics. If they can, I think it will be a case study for the generations, where an Indian consumer tech company scaled globally and ended up profitable. So it's a one company to watch. There's obviously usage. Whether they'll be able to capture meaningful value in this is what remains to be seen.
Thanks so much, Aviral, for walking us through that journey. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode of a Junior VC Behind the Scenes.